first section. So what I'm going to do is there's a recording and transcription have started. Thank you very much. Yes. So to start the meeting, the agenda first item is reading of Act 66 S115 Section 1, which created the working group. So thank you all for attending. It's very exciting to have this first meeting started. So let me share my screen so that we have that in multiple formats. Here's the bill. So this is Act 66, an act relating to making miscellaneous changes in education laws. This is S115. I'm hoping everyone has read this, but I will read it so that we have it in the books. Excuse me. It is hereby enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Vermont, Libraries in Vermont Working Group on the Status of Libraries in Vermont Report Creation. There is created the Working Group on the Status of Libraries in Vermont to study and report on the statewide status of Vermont's libraries. The Working Group is formed with the intent of strengthening and supporting libraries of all sizes and improving library services for the public. Membership. The Working Group shall be composed of the following members. 1, the State Librarian. 2, the President of the Vermont Library Association or designee. 3, the Executive Director of the Vermont Humanities Council or designee. 4, 3 representatives of public libraries who shall be from libraries of different sizes and from different regions of the state, appointed by the state librarian. 5, 2 representatives of public school libraries who shall be from schools of different sizes and from different regions of the state, appointed by the Vermont School Library Association. 6, 2 representatives of college and university libraries, appointed by the president of the College and Special Library Section of the Vermont Library Association. And 7, 1 public library trustee appointed by the president of the Friends and Trustees Section of the Vermont Library Association. C, powers and duties. Excuse me. The working group shall study 1, library services for specific segments of the Vermont population, including senior citizens, individuals with disabilities, youth and children, immigrant and migrant communities, and people living in poverty. 2, the role that libraries play in emergency preparedness, cultural diversity and inclusion, public health and safety, community identity and resiliency, economic development, and access to programs and services. 3, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on library operations and services. And 4, the current overall status of Vermont libraries, which may include information related to programming, collections, facilities, technology, and staffing. A, programming. The working group may study the types and frequency of library programs, attendance at library programs, and whether library programs are meeting community needs. The study of programming may include an assessment of public engagement and outreach surrounding library programming, as well as the opportunities for non-library programs and groups to access Vermont libraries. B, collections. The working group may study the size and diversity of library holdings and assess the strengths and gaps in materials available to Vermonters. The study of collections may include an assessment of how libraries may best share resources across differing libraries and communities, whether libraries offer community-specific resources, and whether libraries maintain special collections or historical artifacts. C, facilities. The working group may study whether library facilities and buildings could be improved with regard to energy efficiency, accessibility, flexibility, human health and safety, historic preservation, and intergenerational needs. D, technology. The working group may study whether Vermont libraries have sufficient access to basic technological resources, cybersecurity resources, high-speed internet, electronic catalogs, interlibrary loan, and other interoperable systems and appropriate hardware and software. E, staff. The working group may study staffing levels at Vermont libraries, whether staffing levels are sufficient to meet community needs, whether library staff compensation and benefits are sufficient, how libraries rely on volunteers, and what resources are available for workforce development and training of library staff. D, public input. As part of the study and report, the working group shall solicit feedback from the general public and library users around the state. The working group may examine models for library management and organization in other states, including the formation of statewide service networks. E, data to be used. The data used in the analysis of library services and operations may be from 2019, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Post-pandemic data may also be used to assess the status of library services and operations. F, consultation with the Board of Libraries. The working group may solicit feedback from the Board of Libraries. G, assistance. The working group shall have administrative, technical, and legal assistance of the Department of Libraries. H, report. On or before November 1st, 2023, the working group shall submit a report to the House and Senate Committees on Education. The report shall contain 1. Specific and detailed findings and proposals concerning the issues set forth in subsection C of this section. 2. Recommendations for updating the statutes, rules, standards, and the governance structures of Vermont libraries to ensure equitable access for Vermont residents, efficient use of resources, and quality in the provision of services. 3. Recommendations relating to the funding needs of Vermont libraries, including capital, ongoing, and special funding. And 4. Any other information or recommendations that the working group may deem necessary. I, meetings. 1. The state librarian shall chair the working group. 2. The chair shall call the first meeting of the working group to occur within 45 days after the effective date of this act. 3. A majority of the membership shall constitute a quorum. 4. The working group shall cease to exist on December 1st, 2023. J, compensation and reimbursement. Members of the working group shall be entitled to per diem compensation and reimbursement of expenses as permitted under 32 VSA section 1010 for not more than 12 meetings. These payments shall be made from monies appropriated to the Department of Libraries. K, appropriation. The sum of $12,000 is appropriated to the Department of Libraries for the General Fund in fiscal year 2022 for per diem compensation and reimbursement of expenses for members of the working group. Thank you so much for bearing with me as I made my way through that. I thought it was important to have that out there and have everyone at least be able to see and or hear it. So next, let's move along in the agenda. Let's start with introductions of working group committee members. Looks like we got some people in the lobby. I don't suppose there's any way to get rid of that. Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Okay.
That's the Teams
Yay,
issue
Teams.
we're having. Yep.
Okay. Well, again, this will be recorded and we will promote this so that folks can watch this after the fact. I'm just going to go in order here on the list of the attendees. So with who is here. So Andy Colvus, let's start with you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi. I'm Andy Colovis. I'm really honored to be here. Oh, I'm not touchy about it, Tom, so don't worry. Okay. I'm the Associate Director and Archivist at the Vermont Folklife Center. I'm also on the Board of Trustees of the Brownell Library in Essex Junction. And just by way of background, I have an MLS. I'm an archivist primarily, but I'm familiar with some of the needs of libraries through that training as well.
Great, thank you, Andy. Christopher Kaufman-Ilstrup.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Christopher, and I am the Executive Director of Vermont Humanities. We're the state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities and the new Vermont Center for the Book, the state affiliate of the Library of Congress.
Great, thank you. Kelly, you're next on my list.
Hi, my name is Kelly McCaig. I am the director at the Burnham Library in Colchester. I'm also the vice president of the VLA and appointed for the VLA president.
Thank you. Maria Avery.
Hi, I'm Maria Avery. I am a staff member at the Howe Library at the University of Vermont. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
And Meg, you're next on my list.
Great, thanks. Hi, my name's Meg Allison. I am president of the Vermont School Library Association. I'm currently a middle and high school librarian at U32, where it's Spirit Weekend.
Awesome. We need to get some Department of Library shirts like that. Okay, I think that's all of the working group members who have made it into this meeting. So thank you very much for the introductions. I am Tom McMurdo. I am acting state librarian. I am also assistant state librarian for information and access at the Department of Libraries. So coming back to the agenda, we have some structural discussion. So there's a library working group roster form that is linked in the chat, and you should have gotten that through the meeting invitation with the agenda attached. Let me just share that real quick.
I just put it in the chat, Tom.
Okay, yeah, I just want to show it to folks.
Okay.
So that they know what we're looking for. We just need some basic information. This can be used for the purposes of, first of all, obviously, contact, because we expect to have information coming in from people in the community. So we want to be able to make sure that we can share it with you. And also in order to do the reimbursements, which are listed in the bill that was just read. So please fill that out, and that will work well for everyone. Okay, next item is schedule for the remaining 11 meetings, and that leads into topics and testimony, which are the last two iterated items on the agenda. So we have 11 meetings remaining. This group runs for approximately 2 years and a month and a half. So my quick thinking on this is that we have meetings bi-monthly. So I'd like to propose that to the working group. I'm not a big Robert's Rules person. I'm not sure if we're supposed to follow that, but if someone could, let's have comment about that, and then I guess someone can second it and we can vote on it. So any comment about that? Does every other month work for folks? Okay, I'm seeing some affirmative. Okay, working group members, if you can, great. All right, so would someone second that as a proposal?
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, so we will have meetings every other month. So the next meeting we will schedule for mid-November. Okay. Okay, I'm getting a comment about Robert's Rules. Need to move a motion if you're following Robert's Rules. Okay, I thought we did that. So moved. I don't know. Okay. I'll get better at this, I promise. Thanks for bearing with me. So coming back, so I'm thinking about sort of structure and topics for the meetings. We have quite a lot to cover in the bill. There's sort of some main topics there, and then there's some subtopics. My thinking about this is that what we could do is with our bi-monthly meetings, we could, yes, we will, Meg. Yep. Thank you. That should have been on the agenda, so we will cover that. I'm thinking that what we can do, because this group should take testimony, I think both in written and verbal form, that we should open a given meeting for a specific topic or set of topics, and then solicit written testimony through our networks. Share that testimony leading up to that meeting, and then select certain people who have submitted written testimony to come and testify to the committee in person. Anybody find any issues with that plan? Does that sound good? I'm thinking that we can use the written testimony as perhaps an appendix to the report so that all of that information is recorded and available for folks. And then we can use the verbal testimony as part of the report itself. Well, obviously we would also incorporate the written testimony, but the nice thing about having testimony in person is it gives the board, or excuse me, the working group, the opportunity to kind of engage with and follow up on certain topics and areas and really explore those ideas. But I need to stop talking and start listening. Please give me some feedback on that. What do you guys think about that?
That seems to work as a general plan. It would be great to sort of figure out how to parcel out the work plan over 11 meetings so that we know when we're actually starting to be writing as opposed to taking testimony, and how we're going to go about doing that. I don't know if there's a plan yet for, you know, how do we write this by committee? Is somebody going to draft it and then we'll work on it together, or how's that going to work? So that's my only concern. If it's 12 meetings only, that's not very many formal meetings, and it's a pretty big charge. I know you all at the State Department of Libraries have a fair amount of the data. That's what I remember Jason telling me at one point already.
Yeah, yeah, Josh does the annual report for public libraries. So some of that underpinning data is incorporated in that. Josh, could you add that to the chat just as a link on our website so that folks can look at that?
Can do.
Thank you. So we do have that data. So I think that, yes, you're right, Christopher, that will be certainly at the root of what we write in the report, but I don't want to short circuit this committee in any way by saying, hey, we already have the data, you know, thanks, this will just be frosting on top of that, because I think that we have a tremendous opportunity to cover things that are not generally recorded in that report, and also to have a greater understanding, certainly, of what that data means. Thank you, Josh. So the link to that annual report data is now in the chat. It's on our website. You can go to our website and find it pretty easily if you don't have access to the link. So, yeah, 12 meetings. Yeah, it's pretty limited. I think that what we may need to do is have longer meetings. I scheduled this one fairly short because I felt that there's two things, as Meg has mentioned already. Not everyone has been appointed who should be on this working group. So we're kind of in the middle of that process. I scheduled this meeting today in order to try to get closer to hitting that 45 days, which unfortunately has passed, but we realized that it was necessary to have this meeting as soon as possible. So that's why we're here today. Speaking of appointees, there are appointees yet to be made. Sorry, I should have gotten on my VPN, but I don't have access to that list. I believe the Department of Libraries has 3 appointments to be made. We are currently soliciting applications for that on our website. Josh, I hate to keep picking on you, but if you would please post that in the chat as well, the link to that. Also, Meg, I think you have a couple of appointments to make as well. So
I do, and I think when I saw the email with the information that was linked to the Department of Libraries website, and I couldn't find it, so I actually have not yet put out a call to school librarians. I was curious, like, what the deadline is by the end of the month. We do have a board meeting at the last week of September, so I guess if that's a link that was just posted, I could use that.
Okay. So that's to be one of our 3 public library appointees. So you will need to have your own process.
do we have information, like what would I be sharing with my membership about? Would I be sharing this document then with them to see who would want to be on the committee?
Yeah, I think that's best. As we've discussed with other folks, take a look at our page and look at some of the language we're using there. This is a big commitment. This is clearly a 2-year commitment. So we want to make sure that people understand that. There will be information collected between meetings. So there's going to be some reading, some background work, and so just making sure that people understand the commitment that they're making, I think, is important there. Deadline wise, we with the Department of Libraries, we have asked that people put in their applications before the end of this month. So we gave a 1-month application period. Obviously, the timing has not been great since we're meeting today, but we're doing our best there. So we should make a decision on those certainly by mid-October. So if you could maybe do a shorter process, because we want to give folks time to get ready for that November meeting. So anywhere in that sort of mid-October range would be great if we could have the full working group constituted by that point.
Tom, do you want, would it be helpful for us to put this out on our social media for the public library reps?
We've gotten a pretty substantial response so far, so we're feeling good about the candidates that we have. There's obviously no harm in promoting it, but we feel like we've done a pretty good job of promoting that within our library networks.
Great.
But by all means, if you would like to share it, please do. So Meg, are you feeling okay about that?
That sounds great, Tom, because with Jason leaving as well, I had lost, we had some communications and I was a little unclear because I just saw the draft. And so I wasn't sure if there was some sort of formal application process. So I'll be on it for sure.
Okay.
And we may have 2 folks appointed by the end of the month. I'm sure we have some people in our membership that are going to jump right on this.
Fantastic. That's great news. Jeanette, you have your hand up.
Yeah, quick clarification for the notes. Meg, did you say you are appointing 2 people, making it 3 with you included, or?
Actually, you know
No,
what?
in the working document, it says there'll be 2 reps of public school librarians in addition to the VISLA president.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I had actually misread that before today, Jeanette, which is maybe where some of the confusion is coming from. I believe that means that there's 12 working group members. So we still have 5 to appoint.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure who would break a tie in that case, but we'll see if we get to that point. Okay, so there's a lot of information that went through there. We should probably vote on a couple things that came up. So as far as a basic format for meetings, I move that we take written testimony leading up to in the 2-month period before each meeting, and then have verbal testimony from people who have submitted written testimony at those meetings. So I need a second.
I'll second that, Meg Allison.
Okay, any discussion on that? No?
Well,
okay, yeah.
unless we, my only suggestion would be if there was some schedule in advance of what the topic may be by month, even if 3 or 4 months out, or if we came up with something that covered even a larger scope, that would at least allow my members to start to think about and gather testimony and plan ahead.
Agreed. I think that that's very important. We need to be able to plan. So yeah, I think that maybe before this meeting is out, we should decide on topics for the next couple meetings. Okay, with that caveat, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so the motion is passed. So we will take written testimony leading up to a given meeting and then have in-person, most likely virtual testimony at those meetings. Let's see, I think, was there something else that we needed to vote on? Yeah, so Jeanette?
Yeah, I think everybody agreed to every other month, but I don't think you talked about the duration. You had alluded to making it a longer meeting, making those meetings longer.
Right, yeah, I think those meetings should probably be 2 hours. Is that too much? I think based on the volume of material we have to cover, to Christopher's point, in 12 meetings, that's 24 hours of meeting time to write this report. Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a challenge, but it'll be a good one. So I don't know if we need to vote on meeting length.
If we schedule
Sure.
2 hours, I mean, if we get done early, great, but you know,
Okay.
if you block off 2 hours.
I
Okay.
think it would also be good, yeah, if we could have those scheduled out. I know like in school libraries, it's going to be tricky for 2 hours for maybe for some members. So the more we know ahead of time, the better.
Yeah, we still have 5 members to appoint. We're kind of in this like in between space right now. I think what we could do is work on scheduling between now and the next meeting and find a time that will work at least relatively well for everyone. And again, that Meg, to your point, looking forward and scheduling those out can give people a little better chance to work that out in advance. So yeah, what we'll do is once we have those appointments, we'll look at that and try to schedule these as far in advance as possible. So looking at the working group bill, oh, I've misplaced it again. Hold on just 1 second. I'm trying to share the bill. There it is. Okay. So we have quite a few topics to cover here. Starting at the top. This has kind of 2 sections of topics. So if we look at section C and then subsections, then the lettered sections under 4, we have some pretty big topics: library services, role that libraries play in a variety of things, impact of COVID-19, and then the current overall status, which this may be a good place to start as sort of setting up our kind of monthly topics. So if we look, we have programming, collections, facilities, technology, staff as those main ones. So perhaps we could schedule out. It concerns me though if we just go with one topic there, because we have so much in the enumerated ones above that. I mean, you could write a report on any one of these numbers. It's a pretty big topic. So I'd like to hear some feedback from the committee, your thoughts about this.
What if we did like programming as it relates to the special populations, programming as it relates to like if we focus on programming and then kind of how it relates to each of those various sections. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how does our programming deal with diversity and inclusion? How does it deal with, you know, public access to programs? things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then you can find other places like how does programming relate to public health and safety,
Right.
community identity and resiliency, economic development, obviously within the context of COVID-19. So maybe that topic approach, we could incorporate those enumerated ones. I think that's smart. Other thoughts?
This is Andy. I've lost my access to the document, so I've got to get back into it. So hang on a second. Yeah, it seems like Teams has absorbed every function of my laptop right now, so I can't even access Word. I can see the document, but I can't interact with it. So let me just futz a bit, but you keep going.
Okay. You may be seeing my screen share, which is maybe why you can't scroll. Let me just try. I'll put that link in the chat again to the bill itself, so you can navigate it yourself. If Teams decides to cooperate. So this is as enacted. That's the one I'm sharing. Okay, so that link's in the chat if you want to look at it.
So basically then for each, like, you know, for our November meeting, we would talk about programming as it relates to, you know, 1, 2, 4. For our January meeting, we would talk about how collections relates to 1 through 4. Do you see what I'm?
Yeah, and then we would do facilities, technology, and staff. And so that is a general approach.
Obviously, it
good.
wouldn't necessarily, you know, all of those may not fall into each category, but it's a way to attack it.
Deb Granquist has a comment. Deb is a member of the Board of Libraries. So I think it's fine to let Deb comment at this point. Josh, can you give her presentation power? Hi, Deb, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi, I think I'm muted now. Hello, everyone. I like the idea of, you know, dedicating a particular subject matter to a meeting. However, for example, just with respect to programming, I personally think that it's good to address those various questions above, but I also think that one of the things they're asking there is it's broader than that. It's, you know, our program is programming meeting community needs, and that is a little bit broader than specific those specific age groups or socioeconomic groups or something. I'm just saying, like, let's not miss the bigger picture too. That's my point.
Right. I think that once we collect data, though, for those first few meetings, then on subsequent meetings, then that's when we kind of look at the bigger picture. I think we need to collect the information first and then, you know, kind of absorb the data that we're getting.
I agree. I think that actually, I think the way that Kelly's talking about this, it does address what you've suggested, Deb.
My concern is that we're going to get, I mean, this is a huge undertaking, and otherwise we're going to get lost in trying to include everything. I think what I'm suggesting is just that, we have a plan where a starting point and, a plan of attack, basically.
Right, and I see you, Andy. And to our advantage, I think that allows us sort of the back end meetings to assess. We can kind of do two things with those meetings on the back end, which is kind of do on the fly assessment of how well that process has been working, and perhaps make adjustments, and then address specific topics perhaps that did not fit in with those lettered ones, to Deb's point, and say, we really haven't gotten the information that we need to cover some of these topics under the enumerated ones. Andy.
This is a multi-part one, and I apologize. Is there a legal requirement that we accept testimony at every meeting?
No, there's no, the legal requirements are all in this bill. So it's pretty general about accepting testimony.
So it would be feasible for us to reserve some meetings that we can just focus on the work of the working group, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That was my main question, because I think, it breaks down fairly cleanly. There are 5 topics, and that could be 5 meetings or 6 meetings, with a final one, and then reserve some of the others just for working group time. That's just a thought.
Yeah, what we could do is go through those as Kelly suggested. Maybe, so that's 5, right? So that's including this one, that's half our meetings. And then what we could do is consider at that point having perhaps 3 meetings to cover areas that were not sufficiently covered through that pairing up of the letters and the numbers. And then have 2 meetings on the back end to begin to talk about writing the report. Just a thought. And today, I think it's important to establish the next few meetings. So Meg has to leave in a moment. I know we scheduled this for an hour, so I understand if other people have commitments. So other thoughts from working group members? What do you think? Sound good?
Deb's hand is up.
Deb, your hand's still up? Okay, I think that's left over. Yep, there she goes. Okay. So let me get this right. I move that the next, we say 5 meetings? Yes, 5 meetings follow the schedule of A, programming, B, collections, C, facilities, D, technology, E, staff, on that bi-monthly basis. Can I get a second? Is that enough for a? Okay, thank you, Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Okay, so we've done some important business with this first meeting today. So the November meeting, the topic will be programming, everything under A, and also as it relates to everything under powers and duties 1 through 4. Okay, so we can get that out to our networks and say, here's the information we'd like. Please submit something in writing to the committee. I'm not quite sure where that information will go, but I guess as each working group member collects that, I guess since I'm the chair, it should go to my email. So let me think about this. There may be a better place for us to put this. So let me get back to you on this. We'll figure out a way to collect that information.
What if we put it, I'm sorry, What if we put it like in a Google Doc, and then we could each plan to read it through, and it may not be beneficial to have everyone that submitted one come and testify, but we could go through and pick the ones that we thought were very powerful, and then make sure that we schedule those people.
That sounds fantastic. That's a nice, clean solution. Sound good to everybody? Okay, great. All right, we'll do that. We'll set up a Google Doc. The Department of Libraries does have a page that relates to the working group. So right now that page is kind of pointing at applying to be on the working group as a public library representative. That content will shift a little bit more toward this is the business of the working group. And so we can link to that Google Doc for folks. Although I think that I'm wondering about the testimony. It feels like that testimony should be to the group. I'm not entirely sure about the public nature of that testimony and to the extent that people would want their names associated with it. So we'll have to figure out a way to handle that. Maybe there's a technological way we can do that where we can have this as an open process, but at the same time be able to encourage people to be candid in a way that they might not be if their name was associated with testimony in a public way. So let's think about that. Let's think about what the legal implications of that are, and maybe we can figure out a way that works with open meeting law and the transparency, but also encourages people to be as honest as possible. So we'll get back to the committee about that. Jeanette.
Quick question for clarification for the notes. Kelly, did you suggest we have the public send testimony on the Google Doc, the members read before each given meeting? And will this group then invite somebody to do verbal testimony at that meeting at which you're talking about that topic? Or is that down the line in the subsequent 3 meetings that we thought might be dedicated to testimony? What's the order?
No, what I was thinking is that we would have people submit testimony, we would read it in time, with sufficient time to invite them to the meeting in which we're discussing the topic.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That sounds good. And so we can get that Google Doc set up and we'll send it out to the committee members. So if you receive testimony yourself, you can then post it to that Google Doc. That might be a way. You might be able to strip people's names out that way as you post it, so that we just have more general testimony there. Okay, so we've done well with our agenda today. I think we've gone through just about everything on the agenda and a little more. I think last is other business. Anything else that we haven't covered today that any a working group member would like to talk about in the next few minutes?
I just have a quick question about sort of process. Regarding open meeting laws, we are subject to open meeting laws, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
So does that place a limitation on how we can discuss this work with other committee members, with other working group members outside of working group meetings?
It definitely does, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure of that before I called Christopher on the phone one day or something.
We can't handle any business that would raise up to the level of something that needed to be voted on. I also think that we can't convene a group of more than a couple people on the working group without having it warned as a public meeting. So yeah, that's a really good point. So we may need to settle some of these issues at the next meeting, unfortunately.
Yeah, and one other, I'm sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
One other quick question about testimony and a Google Doc and anonymity, and whether anonymity is allowed in testimony that's part of the public record. I don't know. So I think that's something worth asking about. And how these things are submitted and shared may have an impact on that. Like it may be that I imagine perhaps we have to maintain full records of who's submitted what, but we don't have to make that public unless it's at requested formally through a Freedom of Information Act request. I don't know. I think we should explore that legal side of that. That's all.
Yeah, so I think what I can do, what the Department of Libraries team can do is figure out exactly what the parameters are of that as we come back for our next meeting. I'm seeing that there may be some difficulty in actually having testimony for the next meeting. Let me see what we can do. What we might be able to do is have a brief meeting in October. I mean, that'll eat up one of our meetings. So where it's kind of the tension here is not great. So let's the Department of Libraries team will explore that, and then we will have some answers about that, which I believe we can share with the committee through email without the need for a meeting. And then we can assess, and then I'll decide when to call the next meeting. So, yeah, so we do have a little homework to do here. Lastly, we have a few minutes left. If there's anyone in the audience who has comments, we can open the floor for those. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Okay, so I think we can close the meeting. I move that we close this first meeting of the libraries working group on the status of libraries in Vermont. Can I get a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the meeting is now closed. Thank you all for attending. I hope you enjoy this beautiful day and the weekend, and we'll be in touch about the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.